whatever you resist persists. So if I'm like pushing away that part, well, really what I'm doing is just like, fueling it. And if I hate any part of me, then, that's what I'm doing. So, I love you, porn part, because this is like part of parts therapy is what it was called. A thank you porn part. And so I began to like settle inside.
You have such great posture. Like, tell me about that, because you had started and.
Yeah. So, back in 2020, I read a book by Jordan Peterson, and the book's called, The 12 Rules to Life, An Antidote to Chaos. The first rule was stand tall with your shoulders back. And so I read that, and I went and looked at myself in the mirror, and I was just like slouched, and like my shoulders were really rolled forward. And so I immediately went out and bought some rubber bands, some workout bands, and started doing some exercises to like bring my shoulders back. The theory, or it's really not a theory, it's the science, is that like when you stand tall, you feel better. And so I was looking for any way to feel better that I could find. This was about a year and a half after my son had passed away. And so I was just looking for anything that I could do to find some wins in life to like keep me moving towards a higher purpose and goal. So.
Wow. That is really powerful. And Ryan, first off, I want to thank you for being here today. I know that, we've just only recently met, and me asking you to come onto the show, I'm not sure what you thought, but I'm super grateful that you're here. I know you have a lot of things in your life. I mean, I didn't even know that you had a son that had passed away. I'd love to know a little bit more about that if you're open to sharing it. Yeah. I'm sure that year and a half to you finding any possible way to find, some wins and to feel better must have been a journey in itself.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's been, the last number of years have been quite the journey. But yeah, my son, James, he was my firstborn. And,
when was he born?
He was born June 8th, 2000 and I'm sorry, June 11th, 2008. And he passed away March 12th of 2019. And, he just didn't wake up. He went to bed. He was 10.
10?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And a healthy, vibrant, beautiful boy. And his mom went to wake him up for school on the 12th of March, and he was face down in the pillow, and he was gone. And so they did an autopsy, but really no clear reasoning as to, why he passed away. Later on, I found a group called the SUDC, which is the sudden and unexpected death in children. And what is believed to happen in a lot of kids like James is they have just a random seizure out of the clear blue. And so that's probably what happened.
Yeah, I have a friend, when we were in high school, she died in her sleep, and she was a year older than her sisters that were twins that I was in my grade. And I just remember they said they think that she choked on her tongue or something. They just did not know. Yeah. But that is such a huge loss of a child. I mean, I can't even imagine what you went through and probably continue to go through.
Yeah. I've said that it just feels like falling through space in utter darkness, he was a wonderful boy, and we were very close.
I'm sure.
And it Yeah, it was very dark times after that. Trying to figure out how to live without, you know, without my little buddy.
Yeah.
You know, so
When things like that happen to you, it's like you're like, this is my excuse for just going off. Like for me, I could see myself just kind of going off the rails for a little bit and being like, it's justified, but not that that's healthy thinking, because it's not.
yeah.
But for me, I could see myself being like, yeah, give me all the things that I shouldn't be doing and let me just check out for a while. But obviously that's not the way to approach it. And I hope that for you, it was different.
Well, it was, a case of beer at night and 3 milligrams of Xanax a day.
Yeah, that would be me, but probably not beer, something different. But yes.
And just to just to numb out.
Mm-hmm.
So it just took the sting off. I mean, so it just helped me to not feel,
Right.
So it just prolongs, the healing process. I mean, it was just part of the healing process, really. So,
Right. That was your grieving stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd be at work or whatever all day and come home, and then it's just right there on your mind. You can't avoid it.
Yeah.
But you try for a little bit.
Yeah. There was no escape. It was just like, especially the first 6 months was just like this buzzing feeling. Yeah. It was,
Wow.
it was a little, it's still hard, obviously. But it was really hard to move through life. I had started to develop like anxiety with like noise and crowds. Like I just, did want to be around, you know? So, but
That's interesting. The noise part. 'Cause I can relate.
yeah,
And then you have another son?
I do. Yeah. I have a boy. I have 2 daughters and a son, and Jackson, he just turned 8 on Saturday. And he's a beautiful boy as well, and handsome and funny, and in his own way. James was different, and I actually struggled with my relationship with Jackson, because it just wasn't as easy. It didn't feel as natural. And unfairly, I had struggle with him, and he was only a year and a half or 2 years old, I think, when James passed. But that relationship has been a journey as well. And me finally realizing that I didn't even realize it for a long time, that I was expecting him to be like James. He's his own person, and now I love, I've always loved him, obviously, but like I appreciate his demeanor because it's his, and it doesn't have to be like anybody else's. That's what makes everybody, uniquely wonderful, is being unique,
Your true self. And as parents, we're not given this manual and being like, this class prior and saying, here's all the things that you should know. And we go into parenting, like with the education we had from our first child, and think we're going to apply it to the second, but everything's always different.
Yeah. 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 It's always moving. It's moving, changing. And so, yeah.
Well, very cool. So tell me about you. I know you were in the roofing business, but now you're starting a new venture.
Yep. I just started a turf company installing synthetic turf. It's called Rocket Turf. And just wanted to I named it that just to be fun,
Like rocket?
No, like space, like taking off.
Okay.
And it just to me, I'm just excited about life. and the trajectory that I'm going is kind of embodied in the name.
Very cool. I love it.
Yeah.
I love when you can do something and it's not something you're like scared that might not happen, but you are projecting it to be a win, right?
Yeah.
And it takes on a different form and it becomes real.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, I manifested that and it actually worked.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa. In my wildest dreams, I really never believed it could happen, but here we are.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, I know you've been through a lot of healing practices and different methods of, healing in your journey. And I'd love for you to share anything and everything with the audience about, the things that you've gone through and that you've done and your healing and just anything that you think that would benefit others that might be listening.
Yeah. Cool. I've been on a journey and I'm very thankful for it. It's been really tough at times, but necessary. So, I guess the beginning of my healing journey started about a year and a half after James passed, and I had the opportunity to sit with a plant medicine called ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is a psychedelic made from two different plants from the Amazon that are combined, and it's brewed and you drink it. And the first night that I took this drink was really, really rough for me. I had taken psychedelics in the past, and usually it's a much more enjoyable experience. This night I had a lot of like just anger, darkness, storms going on inside my mind. And eventually, after like 3.5 hours of this like terror, I was like, I was fed up, and I was like, what the heck am I supposed to learn here?
And that's 3.5 hours after you had taken the tea?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And I asked that question, and this inner voice came to me and said, the darkness and frustration that you're experiencing in here, and the darkness and frustration that you experience out there are all under your control. And I was like, just this understanding of, oh, I need to change the way that I view everything. And it was a realization that I had been looking through a clouded lens of anger and pain and projection of these feelings that I had inside. And so, if I filter all of my experiences through the filter that I did, which was basically like victim, it's everyone else's fault. You just regurgitate this negative experience in life because you're always pointing the finger.
Mm-hmm.
What psychedelics have done for me is basically allowed me to step outside of myself to view my life from a third party perspective. And that night and the following night, I got to see some patterns of my behavior and my thinking that allowed me to come to the realization of like, oh, no wonder life is so unpleasant. I wasn't taking any personal responsibility for any of the exchanges and interactions and problems that I had in my life. It was always everybody else. And so from that point, I got to really start to see on a daily pattern. I would just be seeing, oh, now I get it. If I change this response, then my result in life is going to be much more appealing. If I stop getting angry at traffic, or the slow service at the restaurant or at the line at the grocery store, well, then I can cultivate a inner peace that will make my life much more enjoyable. So I started to catch myself every time I'd want to like be like point the finger at that person,
or that thing. This dryer never works the way I want it to. It's like, okay, why am I complaining about a dryer that's not drying my clothes properly? Like, but those are little bits of anger in you. And I noticed that like those become real negative notches. And, even if it's not at someone, it's at something. Yeah. It's like, let's have solutions over problems.
Yeah. Some things just are.
Yeah.
Some things are just difficult. I mean, some lines are just long and some service sucks and some people are assholes,
There you go.
but so I began to realize that
those assholes usually have something behind where they're at that they haven't, so who are we to like, you just have to hope. So sorry for interrupting.
Oh, no. Yeah. Who are we to judge? Because before that moment really in my life, I was that asshole.
Right.
And one for a little while because, like progression takes time.
Yes.
Yeah. But I really started to cultivate a different way of being for myself. And so over the next probably year and a half, I also use psilocybin, which is psychedelic mushrooms.
Is that like microdosing or is that just like full on,
I was like more macro dosing.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah. But
that honesty of yours.
Yeah. So psychedelics are used in the right context, meaning your intention behind them are great teachers, like the ayahuasca. The mushrooms were actually a much harder teacher for me. The lessons that I learned in a psychedelic trip many times were really, really tough because I was seeing like layers of my behavior for the first time, like over and over again. I'm like, oh my God. Like
your psyche normally couldn't deal with that, but it's forcing you to right then and there.
The ego shadows, so you don't see your imperfections, you just see everybody else's. So then you protect yourself by pointing the finger. And so, but the veil had been removed, and I was looking in an internal mirror and able to see how heinous, some of my behaviors were. In that like I would have a stomach like nausea for like a couple weeks sometimes.
You just feel so bad about it.
Just like, oh my, I can't believe I treated this person that way.
So many wrongs that you're like, I need to right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's powerful.
So for about a year, it was whenever I would, partake in that, it was like really rough,
How long, how often would you do that?
Like once every 4 months or so.
And that's probably as much as you could, like it would take you that long to get to that next time where you can take that next level of
introspection. And it was a lot to process. And then I would start to, these lessons came to me, and then I would have to do the work just because I realized that this way of this behavior, what was not helpful to me, it didn't mean that it just went away because I was aware of it. I had to work the muscle of keeping my composure. And so then about a year or so after ayahuasca, I had an experience where on mushrooms where I got to see myself in the light of the potential of what I could be. And it was so amazing. This night was like I was getting, this energy was in me, and it was like I was getting ready for like the Super Bowl. Wow. Like I was getting so pumped up for life because I'm like, well, I could feel, I could see in my mind and I could feel in my heart what it was like to be that man.
But before you couldn't even vision that because you had so much you needed to unpack, uncover, and reprogram your mind, towards thinking and behaving.
Yeah.
But you had arrived. You're like, I've gone through those things now. I've grown through those things now. I've actually reprogrammed my mind. Those triggers don't trigger me. I recognize them, and I actually believe I can do.
Yeah. And that's what's beautiful about psychedelics is that they help you to see what you can't see. The ego in our past experience, the ego is a shapeshifter, and it moves inside of our psyche, and it's avoiding pain, and it's avoiding the pain of this realization of this feared truth, which for me that I later discovered was just a belief that I was unworthy. I wasn't lovable. I was abandonable and betrayable. And, it took a lot of therapy, even after years of use, being on this personal journey. It took therapy to recognize that there was deep things that were going on inside of me. And so for about 20 years, I dealt with an addiction to pornography. And after my experience with ayahuasca, and I was doing all this, this inner work, I was still and I was growing. I was getting bigger inside. I was valuing myself more, but my addiction to pornography seemed to get worse. It was very paradoxical that I'm increasing and also decreasing at the same time.
And you were aware of it while it was happening, but allowing it, or was it that it just didn't really, it didn't seem like a problem? Because pornography to me is not a problem, but if it can be a problem, right? If it's too much. Yeah. So was there a point where you're like, wow, this has become too much? Or was it from the very beginning? Or tell me about that. It was
a lot for a lot of years, and it would wind its way through my life in more negatively impactful ways than other times. But it was always a problem for me. And I got married when I was 22, and it immediately became a problem. This is back in 2003. I had my first computer, access to it, and for some reason I just went into, viewing a lot of pornography, and it really messed with my relationship with my wife at the time. And I was going to church. I was raised in church, always went to church, and
You were Christian originally, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah. And so we'd have prayer, always down at the front, getting prayer, trying to figure out what it is wrong with me that I can't kick this habit of pornography. And eventually, I just hid it, lied. Although, my wife she knew something was going on because I wasn't available. I wasn't even available, not only emotionally, but sexually, because I was, fulfilling all my sexual needs with pornography. And so then when it came time for an intimate relationship, well, I didn't know what an intimate relationship was. I was young, and all the intimacy I had really learned in some ways was watching pornography, and that's not actual intimacy at all.
Right.
So I struggled for years with that, and went down, different categories because this didn't do it anymore. Oh, we got to try out this so that you can, pornography is just it's just dopamine. It's just a drug.
Right.
Just as, someone has a shopping addiction, like they're looking for the
that hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all the same. It's just what is the fruit of what do you need? What do you go, what is, I found pornography, and that was my choice. In
Gambling, food, caffeine. I mean, you name it, shopping, pornography. I mean, whatever's giving you that hit at that moment. And sometimes we seek and look for, we need that hit to feel like our normal.
Yeah. Yeah. What I learned in therapy was that, and what I understand is, we're not taught to be by ourselves and to be still. We live in a chaotic society that has us seeking outside of ourselves for everything. And so, so to be still allows feelings to come up. Well, we don't want feelings because that feels uncomfortable. And so we seek a drink or porn or go shopping or to scroll or whatever to distract ourselves from whatever's going on, inside of us. So last,
wow. Yeah.
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 It's
being still is one of the hardest things for me. Like meditating, it's like the hardest thing.
Yeah.
And then, so that's interesting.
It's not always easy for me either. It's a long-term practiced thing. So, but yeah, about a year and a half ago, some things came to light in my, about my addiction that severed my relationship with my fiance and ultimately sent me to, by choice, I went to a rehab facility for sex addiction here in the greater St. George area. Mm-hmm. And I was in this inpatient facility for 105 days. And I learned such a great deal about why porn, why do I need it? Why do I need the dopamine? And it was about, covering, it was distracting myself from being still, because in the stillness, these feelings of unworthiness would, not that I recognized that that's what it was, but I just I couldn't be by myself. Well, at Desert Solace, which is the facility that I went to, there's no caffeine, there's no TV, there's nothing but to be with yourself, no resource outside of yourself to stimulate or to cover, only, you can only eat at certain times. And everything that we did was on a schedule. And so I really got the opportunity to, be still and process a lot of these feelings that I didn't even realize were inside. I did therapy, EMDR therapy, mindfulness therapy, and I really started to develop a greater degree of peace inside and a peace within myself. There's a saying, it's that a house divided cannot stand. A lot of people have heard that, but the consensus that I had prior is that, like, between you and your spouse, if we're divided on, politics or religion, it can't stand. But what I was taught in my rehab facility was that the house is myself. And there was a division going on where I hated a part of myself because I knew that the truth of who I wasn't this porn addict. But I also couldn't couldn't prove that I wasn't that either. And so I was taught to just love that part of me, because that part of me was trying to protect what was broken inside. And so I was told by my therapist to thank that part.
Yeah.
And I was like, how? It ruined my life, you know?
Yeah.
And it hurt a bunch of people in the process. And they just said, Ryan, like that part of you was trying to protect the broken parts of you. So I was like, okay, fine. Like, thank you. And I began to realize, oh, that part of me, the dark part of me is part of me, and now that I started to understand at a deeper level who I was and how the psyche works, I was able to accept that. Okay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I didn't know what was going on inside of me. And so I was reaching for something to cover that icky pain that I was feeling, and which was through pornography and sex addiction. And so I started to have compassion for myself. Well, then there became stillness inside because, well, now there's not a war.
Yeah, your head, all that chatter up there is not constantly doing this.
Yeah.
And you just accepted it and said, that's what protected me in that moment.
Yeah. So compassion on that for myself. And, and also I've learned, whatever you resist persists. So if I'm like pushing away that part, well, really what I'm doing is just like, fueling it. And if I hate any part of me, then, that's what I'm doing. So, oh, I love you, porn part, because this is like part of parts therapy is what it was called. Thank you, porn part. And so I began to like settle inside, and not that that fixed the issue completely, but it was building upon the blocks of a life that was free from that addiction. And what was really cool about the timing of how my life pretty much blew up was that going into this rehab facility, I was already doing really deep inner work. And so I came like prepared in a way.
Yeah.
And so one of the hardest parts about moving through this addiction, many addictions, but I can just speak for this one, is the shame of, there's a lot of shame in pornography addiction. And I began to separate myself from the shame, realizing like the more I shame myself, the more I'm like regurgitating these thoughts. So I had about a year and a half prior, I had that experience on mushrooms where I like got to see myself in this bigger way. So I had already been trying to redefine who I was into the person that I saw that night. And the way so going back to that experience, I felt so full of integrity and honor and power. And so I would ask myself, well, how does that man move through life? And so I began to really watch how I interacted with people, even to a higher degree than I was before. How do I answer someone with like being very forthright and very open and direct about what I want, what I need, what I expect? What kind of kindness am I going to show someone? How do I carry myself when I walk around so that so that I just took honor. I was assuming the position of what I felt I was in my mind. I didn't didn't know that I was that person. I just knew that I could get there if I started to
behave in those ways.
And this is like how you manifest.
And you're almost like faking it until you make it.
Yeah.
You had to do it for so often until you're like, no, this is actually who I'm until it becomes natural.
Yeah. And this is like, so what I'm realizing now in my life is that all of the man that I always wanted to be, but I never thought I could ever amount to that. I'm realizing, I've always been that. It's just been that there has been a veil over the truth of who I am. And so after I left Desert Solace, I would resort back to pornography, like couldn't get to 30 days. And then I would, watch the pornography one time and then that would be it. But I made it disappear from my mind because I'm like, nope, I am that man and I'm going to keep going. This happened. Okay. I'm still learning, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to focus on it. I'm not going to shame myself for it because I'm still learning.
And that'll take you backwards if you did.
And it'll take me backwards if I did. Exactly. And so I just kept moving on towards a higher way of being, knowing that how I view myself is the predictor of how I'm going to be. And this is what's kind of bothers me about the 12-step programs. Mm-hmm. And they've been amazing and they've helped so many people. But in the sex addiction world, in those meetings, people come into the meeting and they say, "Hi, my name is Ryan and I'm a porn addict." So you're declaring to the universe, into yourself, that you're still that. And I knew long before that my name is Ryan and I'm overcoming an addiction to pornography. So like, I'm not identifying with myself as present. The addiction.
Yeah.
I'm not the addiction. I am me. The addiction is just something that I experienced as a result of unprocessed trauma. Mm-hmm. And so I just held that vision for who I was. That's the only thing that mattered. I am that man that's full of integrity and honor, and I'm going to keep on pushing and going. And what's really interesting is at the end of March this year, which was about 9 months after I had gotten out of Desert Solace, I went on a 11-day water fast and Parasite cleanse. So
I'm going to have some water. As you say that, I'm like thirsty all of a sudden.
Yeah. So
tell us.
Yeah. So this is, it's kind of gross, but it is what it is. So I did this Parasite cleanse, and it involved enemas. Okay. So to help pass parasites. So for, I think 9 of the 11 days of the water fast, every day I would do a coffee enema and would pass, I think I passed probably 80 parasites.
How do you know you passed them? Because I did an enema every day for a year, coffee enemas, the true, and I actually kind of got addicted to it because I don't need everybody to know this, but having, a regular was really hard for me. And I loved being regular, and I did it every morning after my workout before I went to work. But how do you know you pass parasites?
Well, because I dug in the toilet.
Oh, okay. So you could see them.
I wanted to know what was going on.
Yeah.
And, it's parasites. It's not poop. So whatever.
Yeah.
But anything from 3 inches long to 18 inches long, from a tapeworm to something thicker than my thumb, came out. And it was a really cool experience that that this fast, that, I mean, it was great to know that these things were out of me, but, you know, when you take the time to fast, you're really giving your body an opportunity to heal. And, you know, if we think about a vehicle, if I'm 43 and if I had never fasted before, or, you know, fasting helps you clean your body, period. Parasite cleanse, like, you're going the distance.
Yeah.
Okay. But if we had a vehicle for 40 years and we never cleaned it, like, how good is it going to operate? Right. So I cleared that. I think I was 191 when I started and 172 after 11 days. So lost a lot of weight, a lot of impurities in my body. But what was really cool is about 45 days after the cleanse, I had realized, like, I hadn't had an urge to view pornography, like nothing around the sort. And so I asked a friend of mine who actually has a colonic studio called The Sanctuary Wellness. And I asked her why I didn't, at the time, I just did my cleanse on my own, because I just did. But her studio is amazing. I know I've had a bunch of my people, or my family, use their kit to do the cleanse. But I asked her, I said, Erin, what is going on? And she said that, I said, because she already knew my story. And I said, why haven't I had any urge? And she said that, the parasites hold you into this negative space. Parasites are like negative energy bodies, I guess. Okay. And so the trauma of my life and pain and just the state of being that I lived in for a long time created an environment that was ripe for parasites. And so also, our digestive system is like our emotional memory, our brain. It is our first pharmacy for the chemicals that our body uses, and where serotonin is created, which is like a happy chemical for our brain. We need serotonin to be happy. Well, the parasites inhibit proper serotonin production. So
it's an anti-inhibitor.
It's an anti-inhibitor. Yeah. So I got rid of all of that. I processed with that, went a lot of trauma that my body was holding on to. And I had pain in my different parts of my body that left with this cleanse as well. Oh. I had a lot of pain in my hips, my left shoulder, and that pain is gone since I did this cleanse. But yeah, passing these parasites, now this negative energy, these were no longer keeping me into this negative space. Now I have ample environment for proper serotonin. All right. Well, now my vibration is raised, and so I feel better. Well, because I feel better, now I don't need to delve into a thing to make me feel better.
You don't need that hit.
I don't need a hit anymore. So it was really cool to experience. And so it's been over 7 months since I looked at pornography, and I don't even think about it.
Wow.
And that's such a beautiful thing, because I dealt with that for 20 years.
Right. You
not
thought it
wanting
controlled
to.
You.
Yeah. It controlled me.
Yeah.
And my wife, my wife, back when I was younger, it was hard for her to understand why I kept resorting to that. And I didn't even know. Like, I tried, but I had no real full control over my actions. And, people, and it's always been said in the context of church that, God gave us free will. And I did not have free will because I was being controlled in a sense. Now that I know, because I've awakened to a higher way of being, now I have understanding that I didn't have before. So did I have free will? I honestly don't think so. I don't think many people have free will. I think that many people are asleep to the reality, a greater reality. And so, but now, now I just don't even have the urge or the need because now I know who I am. I've over years developed this new way of being, and now I don't have a cesspool in my gut that is holding me into this negative space, so.
It's interesting because people like you and I that have been through the things that we have been through, and then the learning process, and then the growing process. Had we just been born without all those, and not had any issues and just gone through life like, a normal person or a robot, however, we wouldn't have this new understanding and growth. We wouldn't have tapped into something that, that we had to work really hard to tap into and to overcome. And not everybody is able to grow through things. It takes them down and they never, and they just keep going down. But those that are able to continue to grow and find that next step in growth, which it sounds like you went through a lot of steps, and are still going through them. It's almost like we're so much better now. Oh yeah. Than we could have been if we were just born and not had any problems at all.
Yeah, I am so thankful for my life.
Yeah.
Because of what I am discovering. Like, the world within is so cool. I feel very fortunate through all of my trials. Obviously, I would love to have my boy. But I also think that he lived his purpose on this earth. And, I've said that he lost his life and I found mine. And that has helped me. He really didn't. I don't really believe that he actually lost his life. I believe that he came to serve a purpose and to assist in me changing the trajectory of my life in a way that was just necessary. I have seen so many synchronicities in my life that there's no way that is all chance the way things worked out. And so when I see these synchronicities, they often come in moments of hardship. And then I'll see something and I'll be like, oh, okay, thank you. It's the universe, God telling me I'm in the right place. Keep going. I know that it's dark right now, and I've had a series of dark moments. And which was interesting because I would say sometime after my boy passed and I had taken ayahuasca, I had read the Hermetica, and this was said to be written by the Egyptian god Thoth or Hermes Trismegistus. And but one of the laws in this book, there's the 7 Hermetic principles, is I believe it's the law of correspondence. And basically the picture is that to whatever degree of pain that you've experienced in your life, like a pendulum, you will experience, once you've learned what you need to learn in that, you will experience an equal degree of light. So to the degree of darkness, to the degree of light. And when I read that, I was like, oh, okay. And so that gave me such great hope. And so I said, okay, the light is coming. Well, that perception which was a add-on to what I learned the first time I did ayahuasca, was that my perception was, everything's about perception. So now I was like, okay, I can expect this. This law has been around for thousands of years. I'm going to go with it. And I got to experience such a great, I began to manifest in my life like a business and relationships and success. And I was building that within inside of my mind first. And because I was building it in my mind, I felt that it was true in my heart. All of these things came to me just before, and then it all just collapsed because I had some deeper work that needed to be done to rectify, the addiction that I was still going on, or that I was still struggling with. So.
Wow.
So then I use that knowledge that, okay, to the degree of darkness that I'm experiencing, I can expect to experience the opposite in light. So that then has given me hope, from that darkness into the light of, the next phase of my life.
Yeah. Do you talk about this a lot? Is this a daily thing that you talk about? Like, is it like, or do you just go through life and then, you think about it, or do you express these teachings and learnings to people you meet, or is it something that you kind of just keep to yourself?
I generally talk about them to anybody with an open ear.
I love it.
Because they're profound. Mm-hmm. Like, I have had the opportunity to get to understand the deep mysteries from, it feels like antiquity. It's really interesting. So the things that I experience inside are often hard to explain because they're so experiential.
Yeah, articulating it is difficult.
Yeah.
But you are doing a really good job at it. I feel like, and that was leading into my question, is I feel like your story, your share is definitely going to have an impact on people. I really do. And I hope that it doesn't, it's something that you share often. And like you said, anybody that's has an ear to listen, because you never know like the impact you're making on somebody's life.
It's, and really I have a passion for men struggling with pornography addiction. I want to help them to get out of that. But it really starts with a deep belief in yourself, even though it feels like, history would tell you, no, you're a POS, you keep on screwing up. But the idea for me was to keep believing in myself no matter what was going on, and to disregard what had happened,
Yeah. Once you learned that tool, it served you well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was that. And then the cleansing just kind of like took it to the next level and helped you completely. Yeah. That's really interesting. I will say that I remember back when I was doing my morning, coffee enemas, and I never felt so good. Like I've contributed some of it to like the coffee, is definitely giving me a perk. And then I'm releasing, something that I sometimes would go 10, 12 days without having a movement. And so for me, it was just like, oh, I felt light. I felt great. I can conquer the day. And I already felt that usually by my morning workout, but it just took it to the next level. Right.
Yeah.
And then I realized, okay, you can't be doing this on a daily basis for this long. And I've had enough of my friends are like, yeah, you should probably like, and then like a lot of the things in my life, then, I haven't done it since. And I get on a kick sometimes, but with you talking about that again, there's just brought back memories of, wow, I don't know that I've ever felt that amazing in my life as I did then. Not to say I didn't continue to feel great, but I remember there was a stark difference between before and mitochondria biogenesis. There's 5 things that can trigger mitochondria biogenesis, which lengthens your telomeres, which are the end caps of your DNA, which is your internal age is measured by your telomeres. And fasting is one of them, right? Cryotherapy, heat therapy. And so your water fast, those things were literally creating mitochondria biogenesis in your body and regrowing your telomeres, ridding yourself of inflammation. It's all very beautiful. And I love what you said about, your gut holding, that's your first pharmacy. Your first resource for pharmacy is what is in your gut. And so, the serotonin is so important for us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the most important steps, I think, in anyone wanting to heal from an addiction. I've talked to some other people that it was a gentleman that did a 7-day fast. He struggled with alcoholism, did a 7-day fast 3 years ago, never touched another drink since. So it's really, alcohol is a depressant. And all of these things really are depressant because you're left feeling worse than, before. But a lot of men in the category that I came from with my porn addiction, people are just like constantly, why can't I figure this out? And so they're just down on themselves. Well, they're not operating at the highest level, the fast and the cleanse is like defragging the computer. You've got too many tabs open, nothing is processing. You're really trying, but you're running, you're up a down escalator.
Your bandwidth is just stretched.
Yeah. So people, then they struggle and struggle and struggle and struggle. And they lose the ability to keep moving sometimes because they don't understand. And
in the process, they lose their confidence because they think every day they fail.
Yeah. I'm a failure. I'm not good enough.
I can't do it. I tried every day for
years. Yeah. And then there's a lot of the condemnation from, the perceived condemnation from God, which does not exist in reality. And I dealt with that early on in the addiction, which was, wait, I don't know what's going on here and why I can't fix this. So I must be ignorant of some fact.
Shame.
So I let go of the shame because I'm like, how I'm just thrown on this earth with no instruction booklet. There's the Bible, of course, that is an instruction booklet, but really what do we know? Until we do. One day we come to a realization, we're like, oh, we figure some things out, and I've been thankful for my journey to the last 4 years has been like figuring these things out. But even still, I've been on a inner work personal journey for 4 years and I'm still like learning stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, how did I not see that? So I think what I'm trying to get at is like, God understands. And one cool thing that I really want to share, this idea. So Jesus said that the kingdom of heaven is within. Okay. So the kingdom of heaven is not a place that we go to, after we die. The kingdom of heaven in like Eastern spirituality, heaven is a state of consciousness, nirvana, bliss, what have you. So I'm like, okay, if heaven is a state that we can go to, then hell is what we can also experience. And I'm like, oh, well, if there's no greater hell than confusion, because you just can't, to me. So I thought, okay, well, in just this is just an idea, but,
a theory.
So if we're in hell, why are we there? If this is multidimensional and it's experiential per person. You could be in heaven, I could be in hell, we're all here, but experiencing many different things. Okay. So, why am I in hell? Well, I'm in hell because there are some things that are not serving me that I can't see or understand. However, just like the diamond is created under extensive heat and extreme pressure, so fire also purifies that which needs purification. So you melt gold down to get the impurities out of it, to have a higher degree of gold. Okay. So I'm like, oh, so these moments in my life that have been so challenging, are here to help me to understand a deeper truth. Well, as I experience that understanding, and then I work through cultivating new ways of being, well, now I'm gaining a higher experience. So I go from hell survival to meandering and, like in different states, but I'm thankful for the hell that I've experienced, because I have refined the product of this man. And so now I get to walk in a higher degree of joy, in peace, in love for myself and others. And
you recognize it because you've been there.
Yeah. Yeah. And so as I see that further, now it just helps me to recognize, one, when I'm in a lower frequency or a lower state, and then I'm shown, oh, you still have some work to do here. Mm-hmm. So as a layer of the onion has fallen away, now it's time to do some deeper work and see where is this judgment coming from? And so anyway, that's a theory. People, it's something that to some degree I heard about in some different type of philosophies about, specifically Jesus. And I just thought that was a really cool, because then I don't have to hate the hard parts of my life, because now I recognize them as teachers and tools for me to grow.
Yeah.
Which, as you said earlier, hey, what if we didn't have these experiences? We wouldn't have the knowledge that we have now. So I'm thankful, even though it's been very hard and I've experienced a lot of pain and caused some pain. Look, I've caused the fair share. And I'm sorry for that, but now I get to experience this life in such a fantastic way that when I share some of these ideas, my hope is for someone to latch onto them and say, okay, I want to experience that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's exactly why I had you on the show. I knew that something was going to come of this show. I just knew, and we've only had maybe a 30-minute conversation in total, prior to today. So yeah, I am so grateful. I feel like this has been so enlightening, and I feel like whoever watches this show is definitely going to get a little, if not a lot, out of this. And you touched on a lot of different things. So thank you so much for coming, being here, sharing your story, sharing your experience, your
welcome.
Journey that you're still on and will continue to be on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
I don't.
Any last words?
Yeah, I just want to encourage anyone and everyone, really to just look deep within themselves, look at their life and what's going on, and try to recognize where in the life situations you might be cultivating the experience that you're having, whether it's good or bad. It's all coming from within. And the beauty of that understanding is that once you understand that all things are coming from inside, good or bad, well, then you can change them. The outside doesn't have an effect on you. And so I just want to encourage everyone to look within.
I love that. I know people that blame and that is a beautiful takeaway.
Yeah.
For myself included,
In the inside, really, we're all perfect. It's just our hurts and our pains are being projected out,
Hurt people hurt people.
hurt people. Yeah. Yeah. So
We got to work on ourselves.
yeah, self-compassion. And then when we have self-compassion, then we can have compassion for others, and forgiveness for ourselves helps create forgiveness for others. And that's what this world is in deep need of, is forgiveness and acceptance and love. Yeah.
I love it. Is there a place where people could reach you or, message you if they, wanted to thank you or have further questions?
Yeah. I guess you could reach me at on my Instagram, which is Ryan Ward _I_am.
Okay. And we'll put that in the comments for the show,
Cool.
if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to give you a hug, and
Okay.
I appreciate everything that you've shared.